You got to get a hold of your nervous system. Without getting a hold of your nervous system, being able to understand what emotional intelligence is will elude you. Because when we try to understand what emotional intelligence is with a dysregulated nervous system, that's defined as hell. It's real hell. Because we suppress, we push down, we eat, we drink, we try to pick fights, we overthink, we overshop, and all of that stuff. So pattern recognition, and then understanding that patterns create a rhythm, and that rhythm then creates a cycle. And that understanding from this, everything is energy. It's just different densities. The attribute of earth is the first density of energy. The attribute of water, the attributes of fire, the attributes of air and of space. And we create certain rhythms. And from those rhythms, we create cycles. This is another way of saying karma. That we keep recreating a certain cause and a certain effect that we repeat time and again, time and again. But the thing is that anybody created things you don't like. Things you don't like. But a lot of times we create those things we don't like, and we get very distracted by trying to push away what we created that we don't like. We get really caught up in the not liking it, and then of course whatever that's triggered, shame, guilt, disgust, of any of the lower rasas. What I mean by lower is not hierarchical, but in density. And then we find ourselves distracted when all the while that energy could be going to the understanding and the empowered quality of that is so effed up and I created it. Look at what I did. If I'm that powerful and I can create something that I dislike that badly, that much, what could I do if I redirected that energy? What could happen if I redirected that? But instead, when we create something we don't like, we get caught up in the pattern of shame for what we created. Then we just recreate new situations that are of the same feeling. There's Sanskrit words for it, but it's vasana. Bhavana means tone. It's like a feeling tone. Like I struck a tone. It's the same, like I did it, there it went again. And we think that it's different because the content is different, but the context is it's still the same bhavana, still the same feeling tone. That's what I'm really addicted to. That's where the issue really lies. And then there's a Sanskrit word vasana, which means kind of the marriage of bhavana, or our feeling tone, and the way we think then come together, and they repeat over and over and over and become like a well-worn groove. But there comes a point, my teacher said one time, you just got to build a spiritual dam. And whatever you're creating in your life that you don't like, let's say you're wanting to lose weight, but you just keep overeating, or you want to stop drinking, or you want to reduce it, but you still do the thing. There comes a point you just got to build a spiritual dam around it, and you got to say, this is what I've been creating. This is what it is. When you begin to do that, you can start to embody the fact that you have the power to build something, even something you don't like. That's your power. You have the power to build something you don't like. I'm a builder. I've been industrious since I was a kid. I'm a builder, and I've built a lot of stuff I don't like. I built a pole studio. I go all in, monetarily every way, build a thing. And I knew, I'm like, I know this isn't really as sustainable, but you know what? I got to do it. I'm a creator. I'm a builder. And what it served was my ability to build something. I needed to build. I like to build things, I like to create things. And I could see that, but I didn't love it. But I celebrate the fact that I could do it because I can build anything I want. And I believe that I can do that. And I'm not, this is in no way an egoic, like, oh yeah, me. I'm trying to share that with you because that's you too. And when you can say, wow, I built something that I don't love, but the fact is I built it. And if I can do that, and I just kind of get more conscious, and I regulate my nervous system more, and I set clearer intentions. I get more focused, and I get on my game more. That's what I do. I just get back up. I get back on my game. I'm like, okay, what's needed? Because if I can do that, I can do it in the other direction. See, we get caught up in this notion, if we make a mess or we mess up, we can't clean it up, or we can't rebuild. If we betray, if you've ever betrayed anybody in your life, you're like, oh my God, I'm doomed to be somebody that betrays everybody all my life. No, you're not. Everything can change. Everything can change as quickly as you change a thought. And that's really what I'm leading with in the Container of Best Self Challenge. So I put 4 main points up here. I think I've probably covered them already, but I want to just point them out really quickly before we begin our closing time. One of the number one things for us to remember is that we are all creators. And while it might look like in the world, oh my gosh, this is like so difficult, you can regulate your nervous system to where you can move into a space of observation. One of the most clear signs of a very advanced consciousness, meaning somebody that can really hold a big space, is when somebody can hold ambiguous perspectives, more than one way of seeing things. Even if it has to do with somebody that I think they're really misbehaving. But what could that perspective be? What could be happening there? To understand, and if anything, to do it as a nervous system regulation exercise. That my ability to respond to my own reactions with mercy, they are directly proportionate to my ability to have nervous system regulation. I want to keep my eyes open. I want to remember that I'm here to hold the light where there is dark, not to fix anybody, not to rescue anybody, but simply to be that light. To be able to hold that light, we need to understand that our focus, our attention is what creates our trajectory. All of our lives are like a trajectory. Many of you might feel like your ancestry is like a trajectory. When I was very young, I said, I am going to heal this stuff. We had some pretty painful stuff. I'm sure we all have in our families. Very few families go without molestations, abuse. There's somebody in the family that does something that we're hearing going on in our world today. Everyone in our ancestry somewhere has had somebody, and maybe we've been the one that's experienced some of the darkness that we perceive in the world. And the biggest part of our pain of what we perceive in the world is often what's been disowned within our own ancestry and within our own selves. And so understanding where our attention goes, because my attention, I'm playing a role in this trajectory here. In the trajectory of humankind, we've got to think in terms of 7 generations, and we have got to think outside of ourselves. Not being rescuers, but we've got to develop the ability to step outside of what about me, because that's a big call in humanity right now. But we first have to understand how to answer the call of our own heart and what's going on. Where are the places you've made yourself palatable to others? Where and sacrificed your own truth? Where are the places that you forgot? You forgot who you are. All of that skews our attention and our focus. And so it's recognizing wherever my attention is going, that's where my energy is going, and that is creating my trajectory. And I will become that trajectory. So if I'm busy harshly judging a villain, and I'm not focusing on regulating my nervous system and getting the knowledge that I need that challenges my own concept of self, I've got to build through something and connect the dots. So it's just like earth, water, fire, air, space. I've got to move through that, understand them, master them, and then harmonize them. This all goes back to our ability to pay attention, to focus. So important because it's creating your trajectory. The second one is permission is more powerful than force. What I mean by that is when we're forcing a thing to try and be different. You know, when we're just getting in there, we're forcing, and I'm talking about within our own selves. We have to stop seeking permission from others. You deserve to be and are allowed to be anywhere you want to be. There's nowhere you're not allowed. Anybody tells you're not allowed somewhere? Yes, you are. But somewhere deep in our psyche, there is this permission seeking that I've experienced. I'm talking about experience, being privy to hundreds of people's lives. There's this permission seeking mentality of, is it okay? I'm seeking permission. And then when we do that, we find ourselves having to, we think of discipline as force, because discipline and permission seem to go together. No, discipline is, it's like being a disciple into our own heart and setting boundaries with ourselves. And yes, we might have a teacher or somebody that's guiding us with all that, but we don't need to ask their permission. You need somebody that's mirroring back to you. Hey, get out of that. We've got to be able to move out of that. And I know that's a very subtle teaching, but it's a very important teaching of how often are you internally, no, I'm not allowed to do that. I better not go in there. I don't have permission to do that. Your identity is your momentum. The way we identify ourselves to ourselves is the most important way, the most important part of the way we create our lives. Knowing who you are and what is your identity? Who are you? Are you your mama's daughter? Are you this? Are you that? Who are you? And start to look at what that is. How have you been identifying yourself? Are you still that same little sister that the brothers picked on and made up a nickname for you? Do you still identify with that? It's being able to bring that to the forefront with acceptance, with mercy, and seeing that momentum. And then finally, understanding that we've got to get really, really conscious to create what we need to create. And y'all, I'm not talking about necessarily doing something new or different or building something new or different. It's beginning with exactly who you are and where you are right now. And so what I suggest for you moving forward is just to start to ask yourself questions like, what patterns in my life have become my identity? There's a saying, time and money make you more of what you already are. So if I'm identifying as this, oh yeah, that's what I do, I'm always like that. Don't worry, it'll be much bigger 30 years from now. So just start gently, because for most all of us, we're working with the small child within our own being. And I want you to start to consider, if you as a little bitty boo are standing there, you know, you're like this cute little 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5, 6, whatever it is, was standing there. And you know how some of you will say things like, oh, well, I'm just working through it. I'm going to get over it. Would you tell that little 4-year-old that? You just work through it. You'll get through it. It'll be okay. And what do? You scoop them up. And you scoop them up and you're like, oh no, it stinks, doesn't it? Oh no. That's what you do. You've got to learn how to ask these kinds of questions. See the reality that you're creating, what you're allowing in your reality, what you're tolerating in your reality. And at the same time, you've got to metaphorically scoop yourself up and be in that very gentle state of seeing your own innocence. Because you're innocent. Those aren't just poetic words that I'm using. It's for real. Namaste. Swaha.